justifying terrorist ideology at all, right? There is a sense in which, you know, engagements in many of these things can disrupt people's lives, but to categorically blame all of my sufferings and all of my ailments on an external force, it's just false, right? It's just false. The power of terrorist ideology is that you just need a vague semblance of truth. It doesn't have to be categorically true. It just has to be vaguely true. And if it's vaguely true, then you can use that vague truth to pervert it and to demonize others, and then people believe, no, it really is capitalism is why I'm in the state of affairs that I'm in, right? But then you ask for an alternative model, and the alternative model is, I don't know, it's like a kumbaya model where everybody, you know, it's like international global socialism, right? And we know where communism, socialism took us. As a genocide scholar, I know exactly where it took us in the last 100 or so years, right? So grievances can be blamed on others. So political alienation is one. Grievances that can be blamed on others. Subcultures of conspiracy and misinformation. I'm going to be careful how I say what I'm going to say about this piece, right? Because, you know, not that I need to be careful, because I really don't care, to be honest with you. But I'll let you read between the lines. A culture where you have people, and you can figure out who might sound like this, who are conspiracy theorists to the hilt, who believe the most ridiculous crap, who are constantly and perpetually spending all their time and all their money and all their efforts talking about conspiratorial stuff. And this would encourage domestic terrorism, I say, right? Misinformation, willful misinformation. And you can imagine someone would say, you know, what's at stake is defending the country, and people are spending their time talking about this foolishness, this silliness. Well, there's a sense in which you do have a freedom to speak, right? Freedom of speech does allow you within the United States to talk about that foolishness. But you got to recognize that you are contributing to misinformation. You are willfully distracting mass portions of the population from what's at stake, from what's important. And insofar as you're doing this, I didn't come up with these 4 causes of terrorism. The U.S. government came up with these 4 causes of terrorism. You are contributing to the causation of terror. You might not want to admit that, and I know other people wouldn't wage these allegations against others within our country, and I'm not going to name any names, but the fact that you're spending so much time talking about silliness instead of focusing on the issues, it's that willful misinformation, is this conspiratorial theory crap that serves as one of the conditions in which terror arises. Now, that might not influence us internationally, but better believe it might influence the rise and the growth and the spawn of domestic terrorism, right? So all this silliness, all of this discourse on crap that doesn't mean anything, American people have had enough of it. You know, they definitely have enough of it. Nobody really wants to hear about that anymore, right? Let's talk about the issues, and let's stop with all this other foolishness, because it's that foolishness, that willful misinformation. Gotta love the Constitution. You can talk about it, but it's that's serving to create, I wouldn't say international, but domestic, right? That becomes a huge threat for domestic terrorism. I'll let you fill that in with all the meaning that you want to fill in. I'm just presenting the information. So the willful pronouncement of misinformation is not only unpatriotic, I would say, but it fosters terrorist ideologies, right? So all for those people who claim to be great patriots, you're not, right? Willful misinformation, conspiratorial stuff is one of the causes of terrorism. And then ideology that justifies murder. For the bureaucrats who write these things, ideology that justifies murder, pull that out, put in the technical word, please. It's called an exclusionary ideology. Hopefully I've contributed into fleshing out the meaning and the significance of ideology. So 4 is a little too vague in general for the government. You should put in exclusionary ideology, because that's what it is. And then there are 5 responses to this. I will write on the board. There are 5 responses to the 4 causes. There are 4 causes for terrorism. I just went through those. Alienation, grievances, conspiracy and misinformation, and then an ideology that justifies murder. And there are 4 responses to that. So, in opposition to alienation, the answer to alienation is ownership. Right? You can have a piece of the pie. Right? Don't feel left out. You are, and your voice is, and the information and your beliefs and your practices are part of something that is important, and you can own, not just in the sense of purchase own, but you can own, you can have a stake in this larger sharing of many things, wealth, information, and so on. Primarily information, right? I would say primarily information. Grievances, dispute resolution, right? I mean, I know all too well about this. I teach this for a living. I'm a conflict resolutionist. So, as opposed to grievances, let's institute international dispute resolution. Let's try and mitigate disputes. I think a lot more work needs to, and I'm not going to get into this, it just popped in my head, but as a conflict resolutionist, I know about high context, low context societies and blah, blah, blah. Needs to be more research done on high context, low context stuff, because, you know, dealing with different cultures, you're dealing with different contexts, and that won't make sense to a lot of people, but for those of you that makes sense, then, you know, just think about that. So there's 1, 2, 3. Conspiracy theory crap. CONSPIRACY. And the freedom of speech, obviously. Right? Freedom of speech, freedom of the media. Surprisingly enough, it's this freedom that allows there to be the conspiracy theory foolishness, silly season crap. But, you know. And then lastly, ideology that justifies murder, exclusionary ideology. And I seriously, you know, if I doubt anybody of any significance is watching this video, but seriously, all jokes aside, and this is not like an ego thing, they really should take out an ideology that justifies murder and put in exclusionary ideology. Because practitioners and researchers that know about exclusionary ideologies will be like, oh, that's what they mean. Oh, well, here's more that I can contribute, right? So there really needs to be sort of an amendment to the things that say ideology that justifies murder, and you really should put in bureaucrats, exclusionary ideology, because that's the technical term, right? And that technical term has a lot of significance to us theorists, the brain's aspect of this ideological war. So I think you should do that, and because it'll open the scope of the discourse. And in opposition, human dignity. So that's it, right? Nothing else to say, really, per se. This concludes this section. We're almost done with the overall analysis. I want to thank you for taking all this time to watch my videos. I'm Dr. Jason J. Campbell. Have a good day.